Constantine number 8, written by Ray Fox, art by Aiko. So last issue, Constantine was kind of romantically involved with Sargon, and then all of a sudden Mystery showed up and stabbed him in the back. So we pick up with a chess match where Constantine is just playing against some old guy, and the guy's basically saying like, hey, during a chess game, when you are a little bit stressed out, a good opponent will always like get in your head. He'll like insult you and get you to get a bit flustered. When that happens, you just gotta play out your hand, play it cool, and wait for an opening, and then do something unexpected. So at that point, we cut back, and the blade that Mr. E is using while Sargon's just sitting back watching is apparently like a soul removing blade or something like that. So John's soul comes out of his body and he's able to fight in this form. And he says, Mr. E did not expect that. That is not something that's easy to do, and it takes all of his concentration, but he's able to do it. And he fights against Mr. E's soul enough to get Mr. E's body off of him, and he's able to pull the blade from his own back and throw it out the window. So Mr. E is like, all right, well, I will admit I am impressed. You have always been a worthy opponent. And John's like, all right, whatever, shut up and let's fight. So at that point, Mr. E is like eyeing him down. He's seeing what's going on. He's able to see this like energy coming off of John as John gets all prepped up. And Sargon's like, hey, I can't really get involved because of the laws of our cult says that we can't, but you might want to punch him soon because he's looking for all of your weaknesses right now. And he still just continues. He doesn't trust Sargon, so he's not making a move. But then Mr. E launches an attack with a bunch of like clone mysteries, magical clones or something. But Constantine sees behind Mr. E is what he calls the moon blade. It's this sword. And he's like, wait a minute, hold on. Sargon set that up. It's just sitting over there. She expected me to see that and wants me to use against Mr. E. All right, fair enough. She might not be able to fight him directly, but she can help me out via this kind of thing. So he sets up this kind of magical distraction via his cigarette. It manages to dispel all of the other Mr. E bodies. And then, except for one, I guess. I don't know. Hard to tell what's going on, honestly. But Constantine manages to grab hold of the mystery body and throw him off of this cliff behind the window. And as Constantine hits the ground, Mystery just gets his other body up inside the room and just be like, well, he's down there. He's not dead yet. So, and then all of a sudden you hear Constantine's voice behind Mystery. He turns around. He sees Constantine has the moon blade, and he is able to shove it inside of Mystery's body, which then basically, once again, like separates his soul out. It is getting completely absorbed into the moon blade. So at that point, with Mystery dead, Tanorak, who's watching all this via crystal ball, and Sargon absorb the magical energy that Mr. E had, because remember, they had basically all the magic in the world split between the three of them. Now it's just the two of them. So the two of them absorb this energy together, and Sargon's like, oh my god, I am one step away from godhood. This is incredible. You have no idea how good this feels. And Constantine's like, yeah, really don't. Anyway, I'm keeping this blade. So at that point, Sargon comes down and says, hey, look, here's the thing. This could be yours too. Like, we don't have to do this like fake working together thing. We can do this actual working together. Be with us. Help us out here. Just, make this world your own playground. And Constantine says, all right, you win, sign me up. And he kisses Sargon and says, like, yeah, of course this is all a ruse. Like, of course I'm not actually on her side, but I got to play along for now. So at that point, once Sargon leaves, she goes on her own way. John takes the moonblade, spits some alcohol on it, and turns out that, as was said before, Mr. E's soul is actually still alive, completely depowered, but all trapped within this blade. And he's just like, oh, I expect you to, you want me to beg, you want me to try to please you to get out of there? He's like, no, you're part of the Cult of the Cold Flame. You're going to tell me everything I need to know about the Cult of the Cold Flame in order to take them down. If you don't, I'm going to send this sword into another dimension, and you're never going to see anybody for the next 5,000 years. So you're going to help me one way or another here. And Mr. Eve basically has nothing to say to that, and he's like, good, so let's get started. So some time passes. Constantine then goes, looks out the window, and he essentially gets a magical pop-up notification where we see the events that ended Trinity War and went into Forever Evil. Like, right before Constantine showed up in that battle, we see, what's his name? Shazam picking up Pandora's box, and he's like, geez, I told Shazam not to touch that thing. Oh, well, guess I gotta go get involved now. And it says, to be continued retroactively in Forever Evil, or Trinity War. And then we're picking up in Forever Evil. So, yeah. Finally glad we got the timeline resolution on that, because I was very confused as how this was happening as well as the whole thing going on in that. So, I believe we've already started the Blight storyline, or at least we're very close to starting that over in Justice League Dark. So that's happening there. We'll be continuing forward with it here. It involves Phantom Stranger, Pandora, Justice League Dark, and this book. All in all, that's all happening. As for this issue, it's just a really fast read. I think it's just a matter of they needed to get to a certain point. They had to basically cut this arc short, or just kind of wait until Forever Evil's done to the point where they're going to continue it. But I do find it interesting that because of how this stuff sort of ended, they're left John without any real sort of magic. He's very much depowered at this time. So interesting to see how that's going to turn out there. All in all, I'd say this book is probably just like a flat 7. Not a whole lot happens. It's a very fast read. Obviously, the big thing that happens is Mr. E is taken off the board, but because he's still locked in that sword, it doesn't really feel like much happens in the way of story progression. It's just kind of all right, we're putting this aside, we're putting it in a box, let's go deal with Forever Evil for a while, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we deal with that. So yeah, 7 for this.